This is your daily dose of all things royal.
Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision.
Welcome back, my gorgeous good-looking friends. These last several days, I'm sure you'll agree, have been quite exciting. We are looking at a moment in history that would have seemed almost impossible a month ago and raises a much bigger question than one man's resignation. Keir Starmer came to power promising change. He presented himself as the serious managerial alternative, the steady hand who would restore this trust after years of political chaos. But now, after his time in Downing Street, a different question is being asked by many critics of this system. Was Starmer ever truly the person driving the agenda? Or was he simply the public face of a much larger establishment structure? And these questions come up because Britain has always had layers of power that exist beyond the elections. There is the government voters who choose, and then there are the permanent institutions, networks, advisors, civil servants, foundations, international organizations, and influential figures who shape the direction of the country long after one election cycle ends. A lot of us have been awakened over the last couple of years in watching Harry and Meghan, as well as the same thing with the Democrats here in the United States and what this country has been going through. But for the UK, sitting above that constitutional structure is the monarchy itself, which is an institution represented by King Charles III, a head of state who is not elected, but whose role places him at the center of Britain's national identity, diplomatic relationships, charitable networks, and long-term influence. There is a convenient line of plausible deniability when it comes to the king and the royal family, that they cannot involve themselves in politics. And yet, we have seen the king and other members of the royal family use their platform, influence, and public voice to champion issues that many would consider deeply political, from climate policy and net zero initiatives to broader social and environmental agendas. I think many of you will agree with me on that one.
I just felt that this was the approach that I was going to stick to. The course I'd set, and I wasn't going to be diverted, I'm afraid.
The crisis of climate change is far too urgent, and discussion simply isn't enough.
It just cannot be business as usual.
The climate crisis is the mirror in which we see reflected the combined ecological impact of our industrialized age.
We cannot be anything less than courageous and revolutionary in our
Approach to tackling climate change.
Sure, Charles has no problem speaking out on this and even doing a documentary with Amazon, but when it comes to issues affecting the children of the United Kingdom, the response is often that the king must remain above politics and cannot intervene. That raises an uncomfortable question for me. Where exactly is the line drawn? When does using the crown's influence become advocacy? And when is silence justified as constitutional neutrality? You see how ridiculous this is all getting?
Was one tear shed for the 250,000 young girls raped, tortured, what'd you say last week? Tongue drilled, hammered to a wall, getting sexually taken advantage of and all the different things with objects. It's like, where's the tears? And I said, he said King Charles called him. Has anybody heard anything about King Charles, Pat? Has he commented anything about any of the situation?
He supposedly is semi-public and dealing with cancer treatment.
Well, guess what?
Supposedly.
Yeah, but if you're the king of this great nation of yours,
the office of the king can put out a statement.
Say something. Condemn it, Pat.
If the monarchy can use its enormous platform to raise awareness on certain issues, many people are asking, including myself, why that same influence is absent when it comes to other issues impacting his own subjects. It definitely is starting to raise uncomfortable questions. How much power exists outside the ballot box, and how much of politics is actually changed by elections, and how much is managed through institutions that remain regardless of who wins. With the announcement of this news yesterday, we've seen a lot of Brits showing frustration that changing leaders does not always end up in changing the direction. This sudden rise of Andy Burnham is currently being watched closely. To some, this looks like a normal Democratic leadership transition, but to others, it looks like a familiar pattern. Replace an unpopular figure, introduce a new messenger, and preserve the same broader destructive system. Many have been calling for a general election for fear that Andy Burnham is going to be worse than Starmer. There was once an expectation that a prime minister would treat the office with a sense of dignity and show proper respect to the crown. Well, that standard was clearly not met yesterday. For the first time in modern British history, a prime minister informed the monarch of his resignation over the telephone, and only after first briefing the media. It was a very Labour leftist way of doing things. Very undignified, ill-judged, and entirely in keeping with the party's usual approach to sticking a middle finger up at tradition and institutions. Now, I would say it was very Meghan Markle. It is rumored, though, Keir felt rushed to make this announcement because it was Donald Trump who had forced the hand when he posted this to Truth Social Sunday night. And oh, the memes that have followed.
Country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision.
Nobody likes me. Nobody wants to be my friend. Well, I don't want to be friends with any of you again. Never ever. Especially you.
It is expected that Keir Starmer will be keeping his weekly Wednesday meetings and will be sitting down with the king on Wednesday. But who knows, that could all change. I mean, as is, he didn't show up to Parliament yesterday after he gave his resignation, so who's to say that he will show up to sit with the king? No one is sad to see this guy go, but there is anxiety that Andy Burnham is going to be 1,000 times worse. It's going to be similar to like Canada when Justin Trudeau stepped down and Carney stepped in. It got worse. It's probably going to be the same thing. And that's because these globalists refuse to scrap this Agenda 2030. So it's going to be full steam ahead on the censorship online. It's going to be full steam ahead with continuing with this climate crap. And then we're also going to see migration probably get worse.
And we will see his true colours very, very quickly because his true colours, as you said, are very, very well documented. He has open borders in his DNA. And anyone, frankly, in Makerfield that thinks that they've voted for Andy Burnham to be some kind of Labour reset, some kind of big difference to save the country, I'm afraid you've got some scary, scary stuff coming, because whether it's immigration and open borders, the EU, whether it's his view on welfare, defence, and indeed the economy and borrowing, which of course has been in the news this week, Andy Burnham, I can tell you, is far worse than Kier Starmer.
And that's because the globalist agenda hasn't been abandoned yet. For the United States, we're lucky that we have Donald Trump, who has put a wrench into these plans temporarily, but it doesn't mean that these people are not going to wait it out for the next 2 years so they can figure out how to get a Democrat back into power to undo everything, which is why America needs to wake up to prevent that from happening again. Now, moving on to other news, not sure if many of you caught this because this was released on X, but the White House dropped this post yesterday, which had all of MAGA Patriots online going nuts. Then you had the Department of War CTO going ahead and dropping this post saying, "Are you enjoying the show? Refill your popcorn. You'll love this next part. American quantum dominance."
The White House, the Department of War, Donald Trump, they continue to show us, preparing us for Q. Look at this post that they put out today. It says, White House will be Q posting today. And if you look at this, there's a big long space. And at the bottom it says, and by Q, we mean quantum. Stay tuned. Then they send this image. It says, are you enjoying the show? Refill your popcorn. You'll love this next part. It says American quantum dominance, and Q is got in brackets, and it shows Donald Trump with a massive Q in the background. Then it will take us on to Q. Remember, Q is a military operation, a system that is quantum, can be read in so many ways. Posts that started at the end of 2017 and the very last post were November 2022. Almost 5,000 of them leave in lots of clues. So it says, are you enjoying the show? So let's go through some of these. Post 4. Operation Mockingbird, CIA. Patriots are in control. Sit back and enjoy the show. Your trust and faith in us is enough. You elected us to do the heavy lifting. Enjoy the show. Look, birth of a new nation, new world. They are in full-blown panic mode. Enjoy the show. Look, each fake news article, written or attack, is a badge of honor. Military grade. We control the mainstream media, the fake news. It's the military operation. Rats running. Timing is everything. Enjoy the show. So many gatekeepers. They are the rats of this dirty swamp. Future will prove past. History books. Justice. Enjoy the show. Today, they are learning the truth. You have been prepared for what is about to take place. Dark to light, enjoy the show. Where we go one, we go all. These posts are all over 6 years ago. You are witnessing the systematic destruction of the old guard. It says May 2019 kick-off, start offence, enjoy the show. And we've only seen it get lighter since then. Then there's this one, look, never interfere with an enemy in the process of destroying himself. It says, these people are stupid, enjoy the show. They're latching onto all the mainstream news, reporting to all of us. But it's them that's getting caught in the fake news and the lies that they put out. What advantages might exist when you know the other side's playbook? Enjoy the show. And there's a link and it says, trap. They've all been trapped in this. So coming back to this Q, the military operation, they're putting it out there, they're preparing it for us, and we will go back. Future proves past. We've always been in full control. So refill your popcorn and enjoy the show.
Now, I have not been a part of the QAnon conspiracy movement that started back in 2017, but it is fascinating to watch everything that they were talking about back in 2017 with these so-called Q drops are now starting to come to fruition.
Who is Q? You'll never know, folks. I'm not sure. Or maybe I know and I just can't tell you. Q is Trump? I don't know.
For those that are not familiar with what Q is, here is a little introduction to it.
Something is going on. Some of us see it, some of us feel it. It's time to expand your thinking. You will need to reset everything you thought you knew about the world, about the people you trust, about history, about yourself. Let me tell you a story. For a very long time, our world has been under the growing influence of a vast transgenerational criminal mafia that was able to rise up to the highest levels of power. We didn't know because they talked and acted just like you and me. We thought we could recognize true criminals by their words and actions, but were deceived by their sophisticated speech, wealth, education, beauty, and power. Through a system of threats, blackmail, and bribery, they would come to occupy the highest levels of power in government, corporations, and education. You may know them as the deep state or cabal. Most dangerously of all, they achieve almost total influence over the media, their primary means of controlling the good people of the world who were just trying to get on with living. They use this power to slowly convince us that we were the problem, that we were a threat to each other. They used race, gender, and religion to set us apart, and rewrote history to validate these false claims. They funded both sides of wars just to crush our potential to prosper and succeed as a peace-loving and creative force of good for the world. Now, with their firm grasp on the media, we drank in their entertainment and lies as they began their final phase, the total takedown of America. We were the brightest remaining beacon of freedom and humanity's last hope. They knew that if they could take America, the rest of the world would follow. They cut deals that led us to hand over total control of the money system to a private central bank, the Federal Reserve. This made it possible to influence Washington, D.C., and most of our presidents since then were beholden to the criminals in one way or another. Things took a really bad turn when they concentrated vast power into the hands of the many civilian intelligence agencies throughout the world. They said they were there to protect us. Instead, these agencies were catastrophically weaponized to boost drug and human trafficking cartels, assassinate political opponents, undermine the military, and change regimes of foreign governments who did not want to adopt the centralized system of money control. You might think they would choose simply to remain in the shadows running their criminal activities while we carried on with our lives. But as long as there was freedom for the people to prosper, the cabal were always at risk of being discovered and shut down. There was no way to continue without a plan to eliminate all threats to their survival, even if it meant imposing a single world government under their jurisdiction, where no national identity, police force, or military could stop them. They called it globalism. Exploiting our emotions and our instincts of compassion, they found a way to justify dismantling cultures, borders, and national identity under the guise of social justice, creating false narratives of racism, colonialism, and capitalism to destabilize and ultimately collapse societies so they were no longer secure enough to reject this dark plan for the world. Where there was no history to distort, they would use wars to force a catastrophic mass migration of peoples across borders to destabilize and weaken cultural identity. When we didn't accept this, they called us intolerant and shamed us into silence. By 2008, America was in advanced stages of economic decline, with disastrous trade deals leading to widespread loss of jobs and a devastating financial crisis. The cabal had now absorbed another extensive criminal empire that was aligned with a twisted and radical form of Islam. Realizing the competition could threaten their goals, they decided to cooperate and agree to mutual terms. Now a hostile foreign enemy was able to insert a subordinate into the U.S. political system who would become the president. Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal funded Obama's Harvard education and took power by proxy, picking his entire cabinet while buying vast quantities of control in our largest media companies. The Western faction of the cabal was different. It was another kind of sick altogether. A dark and deeply sinister death cult with a strong reliance on symbolism and numerology, with levels of cruelty unimaginable to all right-thinking people. The reach and scale the secret society had achieved would have sent destabilizing shockwaves across the world were it ever to be publicly exposed. They were highly skilled at living just below the surface as they worked their way into the United States presidency. With both factions of the global mafia now in control, are you ready to hear what they had planned? Make sure you're sitting down. They installed rogue operators in government. They opened back doors to leak highly classified military intel and top-secret special access programs. They cut military funding and weakened the command of generals with irrational new rules of engagement. They worked to dismantle NASA and end our supremacy in space. They infiltrated and exposed defensive military intelligence programs that reduced our ability to detect foreign and domestic threats. They used our trusted agencies to target and weaken political opponents. They relaxed our borders and enabled passage of millions of illegals and violent criminal gangs. They moved money to fund global terrorism, resulting in groups like ISIS moving to capture vast territories throughout the world. In 2016, the Cabal Alliance had hoped to retain power. If you are not yet chilled to the bone by the picture that is forming about their intentions for us all, let me tell you what was to come next. Through international climate change scams, they would have siphoned trillions of remaining wealth, eliminate the last good guys in government, and withdraw total funding from the U.S. military, handing over the responsibility of our defense to the United Nations. They would revise the Constitution to weaken our ability to fight back, ban the sale of firearms to eliminate our self-defense, insert their people into the Supreme Court, remove the Electoral College system to neuter our voting power, and totally eliminate alternative media to shield them from exposure. They instigated a covert deal to move large quantities of our uranium to their captured states in North Korea and Iran to build up a nuclear arsenal that would threaten the world. For this, they blamed Russia, a growing force of opposition to their ambitions of global control. By casting Putin as an enemy and blaming him for this illegal uranium deal, they had planned a devastating nuclear world war between America and Russia that would have exhausted the last two remaining pillars of freedom for the world, accelerating the horrific endgame that had become inevitable. This cabal miraculously lost power in 2016 when a brave operation, led by a U.S. military alliance and their global partners, were able to return power legitimately over to the light. They had a plan of their very own, one that was many decades in the making. With Donald Trump selected for the role of president, the people of America was slowly awakened to the reality of the world they live in. With so much hidden and lied about in the media channels we had come to trust for our news and entertainment, this alliance of good set into motion a sophisticated strategy of dismantling the vast network of corruption that had almost completely overcome every level of government, industry, and the legal system. They knew they had to follow the laws of the land as they were originally intended. Otherwise, they themselves would be delegitimized, even though they were just trying to free us from the silent stranglehold of tyranny that we had come to accept as normal. The panicking deep state used any remaining power they had left to try and save themselves. Each day for 2 years was a careful and meticulously planned balancing act between public perception and the job that needed to be done. Moving too fast would shock and scare a sleeping public still living in the prison of the mind that was created for them. But after all this, it appears now that not only are we winning, but we have won. The trajectory of this great storm is now radiantly clear. Now we look forward to a new future, thanks to the brave patriots who risked everything to save our world. This time for good. There is not a person alive who has experienced what a world without this darkness could be like. A world of free energy that was kept from us to force our dependency on their fossil fuel monopolies. Abolishment of income tax that was illegally imposed to pay back interest on loans taken from the cabal banking system. Released cures for our most deadly diseases. Unleashed space technologies to open frontiers we never dreamed possible. New technologies creating millions of jobs and yielding a global human renaissance the likes of which we have never seen. Fellow Americans and citizens of the world, now it is our turn to shine. Wherever we are, we will become the plan when we choose to reject what they called globalism. We recognize the words they use to bend us to their will, and we say no more. It's time to turn off the media, follow your instincts, trust yourself, and be the plan. May God bless America and the world.
When the government is posting stuff like this, it makes it very hard to see QAnon now as a conspiracy, but instead a historical fact. Now, am I necessarily convinced that the military has been involved this whole entire time, exposing the deep state and the swamp? Yeah, I'm not totally there yet. But what I can say, the last 2 years under Donald Trump, we have seen a lot of things unfold that likely, had Kamala been in office, would have never have seen the light of day. Especially recently with Tulsi Gabbard dropping those files on Fauci. It makes you wonder if we're being led down this path slowly for this awakening. Because I think if this came at us all at once, I don't think we'd be able to grasp it. And I don't think we would be able to handle it. And that's because it's so dark and so evil and rooted in this pedophilia and child trafficking. I mean, there's a solid reason why the royal family will not comment or bring awareness to not only people, but organizations that are trying to stop this so-called raping of British white girls in the UK. But they don't want you talking about it because it's a bad look for the UK government and, more importantly, a really bad look for the crown. And this is why we have recently been saturated with this bullshit propaganda about Meghan going to the UK and bringing these 2 phantom kids. In addition, we've got the drama being cranked up by these royal reporters about the rift between Prince Harry and Prince William. So we're going to be occupied between now and then, when they actually do arrive there, about the ongoing, troubles that Harry and Meghan have with William and Catherine. It's just a non-stop circus just to distract everybody. But at the end of the day, really what these 2 have been doing over here, you all know. You all see with your own eyes. You can use your critical thinking skills to understand that we were lied to. And these 2, Meghan and Harry, are very much a part of this globalist, dirty, corrupted swamp. And all of this media and noise that's going on online is really just to keep us distracted from focusing on the things that are unraveling in real time, especially with the United States. These 2 evil bastards are working overtime to get control of the information space. Make no mistake about it, Andy Burnham going in there is not going to change a thing. In fact, he might just accelerate all of this censorship stuff. I pray for my British cousins that you do get a general election so you can at least have a fighting chance in deciding who is going to take over as prime minister. Because the current setup with Kier Starmer leaving and then Andy Burnham being placed in there, it's not really seen as democracy. But these are all just my opinions. I would love to know what you guys think. Definitely leave your thoughts below, and as always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
I think it's just sad to see where the UK brand is. It's a revolving door of weak leaders. You know the whole story about strong men create good times and weak leaders will create hard times, and that's basically where UK is now. I would say like the poster child to basically show what's going on in the UK is not even the prime ministers. What happened with Harry and Meghan? You're a prince. And I'm saying when he's got his own money, he's got his own money. You're a prince. You're going to basically excommunicate yourself for some B-list American actress, move to America, make a mockery of basically the royal family. That to me signified these guys have no clue what they're doing over in the UK. And Keir Starmer is just the latest victim of just weak losers who are coming in and out the door.
It was such a fraud.